In one of my previous videos, I reported rumors that Disney is upset enough with how EA botched Battlefront 2 that they might already be looking for other studios to license Star Wars games to. Assuming that the rumors are true, and these are just rumors, there would be good news and bad news. The good news would be that Star Wars games would finally be free from the grasp of the most notoriously despised video game publisher in the gaming industry. The bad news would be that according to the reported rumor, Disney has been talking to the likes of Activision and Ubisoft, which aren't what you might call a marketed improvement. Ubisoft is probably the lesser of these three evils, but the fact remains that it would be a damn shame if Disney limited their scope by licensing Star Wars games to the least reputable publishers in the industry. One would hope that Disney would consider giving Star Wars licensing rights to a studio that actually gives a damn about a project's integrity and sells their games on the merit of its quality. Now, everybody has their own fantasy in regards to who they think the Star Wars license should go to, but in this video, I'd like to propose a studio that needs no introduction: CD Projekt Red. They are, of course, the renowned developers of the critically acclaimed Witcher 3, and they're not only known for the quality of their products and the passion for the art, but also for being one of the most consumer-friendly companies in the industry. Witcher 3 in particular offered a dense $60 package of pure awesome fantasy RPG, and then followed that up with numerous free DLCs and two major adequately priced expansions. It all harkened back to the good old days of gaming when companies focused on making games and not money-milking machines, or live services as they like to call it. Which is why there is simply no other studio I'd be more excited to see helming a Star Wars game than CD Projekt Red, a story-driven single-player open-world Star Wars RPG at that. But it's not just about their generous consumer practices either. I feel like Star Wars would be an all-around great fit for CD Projekt Red from both an artistic and business standpoint. Let's start with the fact that the studio has a long history of adapting third-party IPs into video game format. The Witcher games, for those who don't know, is based on a Polish book series of the same namesake, and the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 is of course based on Mike Pondsmith's Cyberpunk tabletop RPG. Suffice to say that these guys aren't new to taking other people's universes and bringing them to life in interactive format, and as the Witcher series has shown, they are damn good at it too. And part of what makes their interactive adaptation so special is that their emphasis on mature, compelling storytelling is bar none. In my experience, rarely did one of Witcher 3's quests not have a compelling story attached to it, and rarely did anything in the game feel like purposeless, tedious busywork. But perhaps most noteworthy of all is how games like Witcher 3 have proven that CD Projekt Red knows how to tell a player-driven story in which our choices actually matter and have tangible impact on the game world and narrative. Providing the illusion of impactful player choice without making it seem artificial is perhaps one of the most difficult things to achieve in a video game, but that is one area in which Witcher 3 truly excelled at. And I believe that this is a pivotal aspect that a story-driven, open-world Star Wars role-playing game would greatly benefit from. For the cherry on top, the game would look absolutely gorgeous. Witcher 3 is still one of the prettiest open-world games out right now, setting a benchmark for how beautiful games can look, and their games are bound to look even better with the development of the next iteration of the Red Engine 4. Now, that's not to say that EA Star Wars games don't look pretty. That's definitely one area that I can at least give Battlefront 2 credit for. But because Frostbite Engine was initially designed for action and shooting games like Battlefield and Battlefront, there are a lot of technical hoops to jump through to make a game that doesn't center on action and shooting or fit within that mold. That's what hampered the development of Mass Effect Andromeda, and that's what for a time hampered the development of Anthem. The Frostbite engine, as great as the graphics can be, if you aren't designing shooters like Battlefield or Battlefront, it's more of a hindrance than anything else. So if Disney wanted to expand their horizons for Star Wars games and maybe revisit the concept of a story-driven, single-player, open-world Star Wars role-playing game akin to KOTOR, it would be a good idea to work with a studio like CD Projekt Red, who are experts in the field and who have this engine, Red Engine, that was designed to meet the technical demands and challenges that might be involved in bringing such a type of game to life. Now, what about from a business standpoint? point, what does Disney stand to gain by partnering with CD Projekt Red? Well, let's start with positive PR for Star Wars games for once, because I don't remember the last time a Star Wars game was well received in recent years. Just the announcement of Disney licensing Star Wars to CD Projekt Red alone would make waves across the entire gaming industry. Everyone would be talking about it. And you're really not gonna find many people who won't cheer about the prospect of a CD Projekt Red Star Wars game. So right from the get-go, the game would immediately gain huge amounts of positive attention. Then there's the fact that CD Projekt Red is so prolific in the gaming industry that their games practically advertise themselves. Just look at Cyberpunk 2077. All we have really seen of the game is a CGI teaser trailer that was first shown to the public 5 years ago. And yet, even now, when a small nugget of news about the game comes to light, articles and videos flock to cover them, and they can end up getting hundreds of thousands of views, even though we know next to nothing about this game. Hell, even Witcher 3 and people's experiences with the game remains a popular topic of discussion among the gaming community. And CD Projekt Red barely has to do anything to maintain such high level of interest throughout a long period of time for their titles. The quality of their games and their upstanding consumer practices does the talking for them. Now, if CD Projekt Red and their games can maintain such a high level of attention through niche IPs, imagine how much attention a mainstream IP like Star Wars stands to garner. Imagine what the marrying of Star Wars popularity and CD Projekt Red's reputation will do for all involved parties. But perhaps most importantly for a company like Disney, there is the fact that CD Projekt Red games, Witcher 3 especially, have gone on to sell really well. The last report on Witcher 3 sales was on March 2016, and at that point in time, the studio reported to have shipped 10 million copies worldwide. That was only 2 years ago, so these numbers probably shot up significantly since then. If CD Projekt Red can sell a game based on a niche series of books so successfully, imagine how many copies a Star Wars game with CD Projekt Red's name and quality attached to it would sell. And it isn't just Disney who would benefit from this, CD Projekt Red would stand to benefit immensely as well. Although sales would mean more money for the studio to invest in other projects, and them helming a game for a franchise as prolific as Star Wars would propel them to a whole new echelon of notoriety. Now, as much as I like to fantasize about this scenario, I'm honestly not very optimistic that this will ever happen. For one, I think there's a conflict of interest in that every game that CD Projekt Red has made so far, the studio has had complete control over. While the original authors have retained the rights to the Witcher books and the Cyberpunk tabletop RPG series, CD Projekt Red has full ownership over the Witcher game series and the Cyberpunk 2077 game to do with as they please with little creative restrictions. That level of creative control and ownership is just something that I don't know CD Projekt Red would be willing to yield on, and I don't know that Disney would grant them that level of control and ownership over a Star Wars game. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to come up with a compromise, but from the impression that I've gotten from both companies, they are on polar opposites in terms of what they would put down on the negotiation table. There's also the fact that I don't think Disney cares too much about the artistic integrity of a game as long as it sells well and furthers the agenda of expanding the Star Wars name. If you ask me, the fact that Disney was willing to exclusively license Star Wars games to a company like EA, and the fact that according to rumors, they are prioritizing reaching out to companies like Activision and Ubisoft as alternatives above all others, informs a lot about their priorities. It's very easy to get the sense that Disney cares more about mainstream and mass appeal, not risky decisions for the sake of artistic merit. At least as far as Star Wars games are concerned. I feel like Disney wouldn't see CD Projekt Red as being mainstream enough in their methods and approach to warrant them a consideration of a Star Wars game license. Parallel to that, I feel as though CD Projekt Red admirably wouldn't be willing to yield to Disney's mainstream mandates and approach if that comes at the expense of the studio's ability to make the game that they want to make. One would think, however, that Disney, after their decision to partner with a mainstream-oriented game publisher like EA, has yielded less than ideal results on numerous occasions, particularly with the Battlefront 2 fiasco, would start thinking thinking about a different approach. Maybe it's time for Disney to start thinking long-term and to start earning back some reputation for Star Wars games. If they want people to be excited about Star Wars games moving forward, maybe it's time to give well-intentioned studios like CD Projekt Red a shot. Because right now, with EA at the helm of the Star Wars games license, people are no longer excited about the next Star Wars game. They are more anxious about its potential ruination. This is just one man's perspective anyway. I'd love to hear what you think about all this in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but even donating as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping this channel grow. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out!